Hey there everyone, welcome back. It has been quite a while with Gen 6 RNG, and there have been quite a few number of changes since the last time I did it. So that basically that last video where I did the wild RNG, completely ignore it. It's good in practice. It does give you kind of an idea of how it works and how complicated it is, but there has been a new tool released recently. It is this. It is the Tiny Finder. And this will do all that work that you were trying to figure out your indexes and when to turn and how to make things work, and it just does it all for you, so you don't have to even worry about it anymore. So it is fantastic. It connects to your 3DS via NTR, or if you're using Citra, you can just copy and paste things in there. So we're gonna use that, and I've got my 3DS set up here. So we are going to use that today. And just because I can connect this via NTR to wherever I would need to connect to, and then it just fills in things automatically for me. So it just makes my life a lot easier. So let's go ahead and get things started up. Remember, if you're connecting to NTR in your 3DS, to hold the left D-pad when you start it up. You can't see it on the screen, but on mine you can see two blue flashes and then a green flash, and then it'll just stay on this screen forever. So go ahead and connect to NTR. So remember, on the 3DS RNG tool, there's the NTR helper. You have your IP address, and you just hit one click, and that'll connect everything up to you, and it'll start everything. And then also connect to NTR on Tiny Finder as well. Alright, so we've got that going. So we're going to bring up Tiny Finder, and if you hit the update button right here, it will give you an error message saying no slots have been selected. That's okay. That's perfectly fine. But it did update all these tiny seeds with your current ones. So that's great. You know it's working. Alright, so let's hide that. So we're going to start on Route 10 today. You could do this pretty much anywhere, but there is also another companion that goes along with this. And I'm going to pause this so we don't advance too many frames. But let's bring this up. So this here is another album that was made by the person by Bambo Rambo, who made the Tiny Finder. And they compiled a list of spots where the best place to stand is to get the best results. So we're on Route 10. We're going to go ahead and look. And you can see some more information here. I'll go into it once we get there. So here's Route 10 right here. And it says plus 27. So that's important to note. And try to stand in roughly the same spot. Yeah, okay, you can see I'm there. So that looks good. So I'm going to go ahead and close this. We don't need it right now. But the plus 27 is important. So I'm going to bring back up the Tiny Finder. And in here, I'm going to change it. So we're XY. We're doing normal wild. We are in Route 10. We're not in a cave. And we want to set the minimum index to 27. Basically, what happens is we're going to get to a tiny frame. We're going to find out what our target is. We're going to get to 27 indexes before that. And then when we close out everything, we'll be able to turn and trigger the encounter we want. And I want slot 10, which is an Eevee. And we're not gonna generate yet. We're not gonna update and generate yet because we got to do some stuff first. So another thing to do, close off that screen. We don't need it. First thing you're gonna want to do is you're gonna want to use a repel before you do anything when you open up a save, because there is a certain number of steps that you need to take in grass whenever you load up a save, go to a new area after you have a new encounter. And so you want to make sure you burn up all those steps so that you know that you'll be able to trigger an encounter on your next step. So, okay, so no, we don't want to do that. Of course this is what happens. Just need to make it one more step. So we're going to go ahead and run from this encounter. Funny story, when I was testing this, I actually got everything lined up right. I got myself a shiny Eevee encounter, and then I proceeded to run from it immediately. Alright, so this is good. You get some practice in running. Yep, use another repel so that you can't encounter anything. and we'll go ahead and burn it off. This is the reason why you're doing repels, because you only need to do a few steps before you can trigger another encounter, and so we don't want to have to run too far here. Alright, almost there. There we go. No. Alright, let's look at that picture again. Let's see it. And we're one south. There we go. That's perfect. Alright. Yeah, that lines up really nice. Alright, so now we're going to open up the bag, and we're immediately going to pause it. Alright, so we got our tiny seeds and everything. Bring up our tiny finder. We have it updated with everything minimum index. We're looking at slot 10. We're not looking at a sync Pokemon right now, so we don't have to care about that. And then we hit update because we're connected. If you're on... Oh, wow, that's lucky. Okay, so if you are on a Citra, you're just going to have to copy and paste these. Sorry, that's life. Anyways, so we got lucky here because we can see index 30. That is the target that we were looking at. These are only showing encounter frames. So these are only the encounters. Now, keep in mind, you're not trying to hit this index. You're actually trying to hit 27 indexes before that. So, alright, so we're going to ignore filters. So, now we need to advance indexes. How do we do that? There's actually some easy ways to do that. And so the first things first is that we are going to I'm going to go over that. So the easiest way is using the EXP share. If you turn the EXP share on or off, it will advance 3 times the number of Pokemon in your party indexes. So you have a full party of 6, you could advance 18 indexes at a time, which is actually really good. And since the indexes are frozen while you're in your bag, it's really safe to do. Or you can also give a held item to a Pokemon that will advance you by 3 indexes. But once you get down to the very last indexes, like in this case I only have to advance 3 times, well, TMs. If you use a TM on a Pokemon and you want to teach it, and they have 4 moves, you have to delete a move and replace it, you say yes. Looking at a Pokemon summary like this, you can see they just advanced with tiny frames by 1. So, just have to do this 3 times. Alright, that's 2. And we'll do it one more time. Alright. And then make sure you don't go back to the summary screen again, or else you would lose all that work you just did. Alright, so let's go ahead and we hit update. Alright, there we go. You see 27. So that's perfect. This should be a... Oh, yeah, don't have the tool. It's index 27. So you do see, okay, so it's not a sync spot. Even if we had a synchronizer, it wouldn't sync. Slot 10, this is not important. And these are the seeds that we're going to want to hit when we close this menu. So, we'll check that once we get there. So now, for now, we're done with the tiny finder. It's time to open up our good friend, the 3DS RNG tool. So, because I connected to NTR and it as well, it already populated the seed. I already know my shiny value and whatnot. And so, I'm going to put in my frame here, 13,870. I have a shiny charm. I don't want anything fancy. We're on normal wild, but you don't have to synchronize anything. And here we go. Great. We see a shiny frame is coming up right at 20016. All right, let's set that as our target. And one great thing is that if you have the shiny charm, you get multiple windows. And that is kind of important because if you're doing this on a 3DS, you don't have as much control over whether or not you're going to be even or odd, and you'll see why in a second. Alright, so I'm going to go over to my berries tab. You see that I have nothing in my berries tab. Nothing. Not a single thing. That's because it's going to make things a little bit easier for the next part. So we're going to advance to close to our target frame, like the 100 110-ish, 110 to 150. You don't want to go too far. You don't want to go too close, but you also don't want to go too far. Obviously, you don't want to bypass it, but you don't want to get too close to your frame because there's time to close the menu before you can actually start advancing. So we're gonna advance, and this will only take a minute here. So I'll see you back in just a minute. All right, I think this is a good spot. So what we're gonna do is we're going to close out. I'm gonna bring up our tiny finder again so you can see. So you can see this. All right, good. Lined up pretty well. So we're going to close this out. Now, unfortunately, if you are on Citra, you can just hold down the close menu button and then advance frames and get them both registered at the same time. But the way the 3DS is, it doesn't let you do, you can't hit start and back out of the menu at the same time. So you're going to just hit start and B as fast as you can. Okay. Alright, so now we're back at, you can see we are in our bag, we're still in the menu, so that's good. We want to still be in our bag, in our menu rather, not our bag. We want to be in our menu, and now you can see our tiny frames and they're frozen. They did a whole bunch of advances, in this case they do 27 advances when you close out of the bag, and you can see here that, no, I sorted that funny. Alright, you can see here that the tiny seeds actually match up exactly, so we know that we hit the right index. So, when we close this and make a turn, we should get an EV encounter. Now, another thing to note is that when you close this menu, after about 12-ish frames, that's when all your DSS stuff loads up, and that will advance TinyMT by another frame. So, if you make your turn before that 12 frames, you'll get your encounter. Now, the great thing is that it only takes like 8 frames to close your menu, so you have plenty of time to do that. So let's close out our Tiny Finder. We'll bring up our 3DS RNG tool real fast again. And our target is 20015. And you can see because when I closed out, I am a mod. Just doing advances. Alright, so 20015 is my target. Again, bring that up here so you can see it. 20015, this is my target, my new target, because when you close the bag, that way you can't really be sure that you're going to be even or odd, because you're not as controlled. If you're on a 3DS, when you leave the bag on an even frame, you'll be on an even track once you close it. Whereas in Citra, if you close it on an even frame, you'll be on an odd track, and vice versa. So that's just something to note. Anyways, so we have to advance to 10 frames before our encounter. So let's go ahead and do that. We're actually really close as it is. So I'm just going to do some small advances. Alright, 2005. Yeah, okay, so that is 10 frames exactly. So now we're going to hold down the X button and just hit select. Okay. And we're going to advance to our target. Here we go. Alright, so here we are. Hold down. Well, okay, so in this case, you don't want to take a step forward, you want to make a turn. So hold the direction in whatever way you're not facing. In this case, I always choose down, that's just my preference. And then while you're holding down, then press A. We triggered an encounter, so that's good. Did we hit our target? It looks like we did. So there we go. And you can see our IVs and everything. Let's bring up our tool here and we'll compare. 31, 29, 26, 5, 8, 28, Rash, Rock. Yeah, everything is right. This is exactly what we're looking for. And, I mean, again, the odds of it just being another shiny were very low because we know everything. But there you go. You see, first try, and you can see I started the DS. I promise there have been, the only cut I did was when I cut from earlier frames to get to that close to the target frame. So you can see, like this is something that I literally spent hours trying to do on a stream once, and here we go. I did it in less than 20 minutes, and that was with explaining things. So you can see how much easier this is now. Just, oh my goodness. Let's see. I guess our ball situation isn't too good. Just throw you in a quick ball, whatever. But yeah, that is it. And so if you're doing this on a Citra emulator, the only difference here is that you have to manually input the tiny seeds, just copy and paste them from your RNG tool. But otherwise, the frames, everything is exactly the same. You're doing the exact same steps to get the exact same encounters. But yeah, that is wild RNG. And next up, I will do some horde RNG, because that is also a lot easier nowadays too with this Tiny Finder. Actually, everything is better with Tiny Finder. It is just a great tool. Special thanks to Bambo Rambo. I've said it before to them, and just it is fantastic. It has made everything so much easier, to the point where I can actually RNG in the 6th generation without wanting to cry. So we'll go over this. We'll do horde. We'll do a whole bunch more, and I'll update some old videos too, because they are, again, much easier to do now. So thank you so much for joining me, and I will see you all next time.